Pandemic Aftermath by AS Geek 2012. Chapter 12. Long Distance Calls. Midnight Star stepped into the star-filled ethereal realm just before dawn on a Sunday morning. Dreams called out to him like distant, whispery voices despite him having no intention of dream walking. This was the third time he had tried to contact his dream warden in so many days. In his frustration, he had vastly cut back on his dream walking in hopes of attracting the warden's attention. There were only 6 dream wardens in total, all picked personally by Princess Luna to keep watch over the night ponies and prevent them from abusing their powers. Generally, one never truly needed to call out a misbehaving night pony, as they were ever vigilant and could sense and deal with the problem far more effectively on their own. All the more reason Midnight had to talk to them. As far as he could tell, Ryan still had his mental faculties, which would not be the case had he already attracted the Dream Warden's ultimate wrath. For crying out loud, I know you're out there somewhere! Midnight yelled, his voice echoing into the velvet void. What do I have to do to attract your attention, hey? Midnight fumed. For all he knew, his Dream Warden was already watching him like a specimen under the microscope, just to observe his reaction to stress. He had never met a pony with such a clinical approach to the dream realm. Hey, I was thinking, Midnight called out. Maybe I should change my name back to Midnight Terror. Had a nice ring to it, you know? Maybe cut my mane into a mohawk, wear a jacket with skulls on it, paint my hooves blood red. I think that would go over great with the little foals. Suddenly, Midnight was standing among tall green grasses in the middle of a vast field filled with flowers under a clear blue sky. The sun shone warmly upon him and did not disturb him as it would in the waking world. A large rainbow arched over rolling hills in the distance. Birds sang and butterflies flitted from blossom to blossom. Well, at least he's in a good mood, Midnight murmured. Let's see how long it lasts. Another night pony glided out of the skies towards him, one with brown-black fur that always reminded him of burnt toast, and a rust-red mane. He was no bigger than Midnight, but his title was all that he needed to make him seem all the more intimidating. Dream Warden Psychic Calm landed a short distance away, his stoic dark green gaze resting on Midnight as if in silent evaluation. He folded his wings to his sides and waited. Midnight knew what the Dream Warden wanted. Not a word would pass from Psychic's lips until they were given. Psychic Calm, we promise ponies shall dream in peace, Midnight intoned as he recited the oaths with a reverent tone, each preceded by the name of a Dream Warden. Yunya Wu Yan, we shall not allow our passions to lead us to folly, Gadab, the Warden's anger is unyielding and just, Phobia Remedy, fear of the Wardens keeps us safe, Taki Krik, we shall keep the secrets of the Wardens, Sha'am Mot, better to die than to face the Warden's justice. Midnight's eyes flicked around him. If his recitation had been unacceptable in any way, he would soon see a change to the landscape. Instead, the rainbow remained, the birds kept singing, and the butterflies kept flitting. I assume there is a reason for conjuring such a ridiculous vision of yourself, said Psychic, his voice calm and even. I dare say the foals would find it more funny than scary. Midnight wished he could fall back on his usual cynical approach, but that was generally unwise when dealing with the Dream Wardens, especially the one who was effectively his probation officer. He could count himself lucky that his initial nightmare-inducing spree had happened before Luna had finished organizing the Dream Wardens. They would have been a lot less forgiving. Still, Midnight risked at least a smirk and shrug as he said, what can I say? I was never the pinnacle of fashion as a human. In either case, I hope this is important, said Psychic. With matters as they are for the Western ponies, I am very busy. I realize that. And you should be as well. Psychic started to walk a slow circle around Midnight. I have indeed noticed that you've slacked off the past few days. I must ask that you return to your dream walking immediately. Midnight ran a hoof through his mane and muttered, what's one night pony more or less? Have you heard what I said? I need every available night pony to do their duty. I will, but I have some stuff on my mind, Midnight said. Which is why I wanted to talk to you. Psychic stopped before Midnight and faced him. Speak, then, and get to the point. I found a human with night pony powers, said Midnight, frowning. And he's abusing them. Psychic's face did not change an iota. In the distance, the rainbow vanished. So you don't know about him, said Midnight. No, I do not, said Psychic, his voice exhibiting the same even tone. Nor do my fellow wardens, or they would have informed me. Then I take it he hasn't been dreamwalking. Apparently not. Is that one of his powers? No idea, said Midnight. I was hoping you could tell me. Psychic considered. If it is, he is either keeping a very low profile or has done nothing that would attract my attention. What exactly has he done to prompt such ire towards him? He's been affecting the minds of other ponies, said Midnight. At once, the birds and butterflies vanished. Indeed. He's been making them feel wary and fearful every time he's around them, said Midnight. He's apparently done this several times now. The light dimmed as the sun went behind a line of thick, dark clouds brewing from the horizon. To what end? He's a militant pro-human asshole. Do the math. Do not be flippant with me, said Psychic. I am no longer in the mood for it. Lightning struck the ground over the hills. Yeah, I can tell. Why have the human authorities done nothing about this? What, are you kidding me? Thunder nearly deafened him and shook the ground. All right, all right. What I meant is, why would this be for them to solve? He is obviously a rehumanized night pony, said Psychic. They are supposed to keep careful records of that sort of thing. Well, as far as I can tell, the FBI knows about him and haven't done shit about it. Is this why you have come to me? Who else can I go to? Midnight cried. Isn't this supposed to be your thing, kicking the asses of night ponies who don't behave? What would you have me do? Ask Psychic. Midnight stared. Are you serious? He is human, said Psychic as some of the thunder retreated. Unless he still has a connection to the dream realm, there is little we can do. I don't believe this, Midnight muttered. Psychic sighed. I should have expected that some humans might not be as keen to catch this man, especially if he's causing trouble for ponies. That's just it, he can affect humans, too. Psychic raised a single eyebrow. Lightning flashed, and the wind rose, rain lashing the ground save for a small protected area around the two ponies. I thought night ponies couldn't really affect humans, except if they're blood-related, said Midnight. That's the prevailing theory, said Psychic. There are exceptions to every rule, of course. Midnight frowned. You know what I think? The fact that humans aren't bothering to throw his ass in jail, and that he's getting away with this so openly, makes me think some pony is using this guy to his advantage. How the hell else could he have slipped under the... Whoa! Midnight backed up a step when a crack suddenly rent the earth behind Psychic, and lava poured forth. An unholy screech arose from behind Midnight. He whirled around to see a large pit disgorging legions of ghouls. All the flowers had shriveled, and a blistering hot wind charred the grasses. He turned back to the Dream Warden. I take it you're a tad upset at this. Psychic clenched his teeth and waved a hoof. The hellish landscape vanished, replaced with the calm of the ethereal dream realm. He stepped up to Midnight, who did his best not to cringe. What upsets me is how little leverage the wardens have in this situation. If this human is disconnected from the dream realm, for crying out loud, he's not exactly hiding. Midnight said. Surely the dream realm is not the only place you and the other wardens can kick ass. Normally I allow you some latitude, but I insist you remember what you have been taught. Our authority does not and cannot extend to the real world. Or did you conveniently forget about the oath requiring silence and secrecy? Midnight face hoofed and clenched his jaw until the urge to retort with something that likely would land him in trouble had passed. He had always thought this fetish for secrecy was going to bite the wardens on their collective ass one day. Psychic's expression softened slightly. I understand your frustration. It is commendable that one who himself abused his powers is so adamant about stopping others from doing the same. Let me see what I can do. I will consult with my counterpart in the eastern US, Phobia Remedy. Perhaps she can offer a suggestion. If not, I will consider appealing to an outside authority. Midnight's eyes widened. Princess Luna. She has more resources in dealing with humans than the wardens do. Midnight smirked. Have I said something amusing? Ask Psychic. This guy Ryan thinks he knows fear. The princess would teach him what fear really means. Asterisk. Connie wrapped her arm more tightly around her daughter's barrel when the filly squirmed, causing some of the bristles of the brush to poke Christina's ear. She protested with a flick of her tail that batted Connie's face and almost made her sneeze. Watch the ears, Christina said as she swiveled the offended one out of the way. Well, Missy, you could help by keeping a little more still, said Connie as she applied the brush to Christina's mane. Christina winced as the brush caught another tangle. I would if this, ouch, didn't keep hurting. I apologize, but your mane is a bit of a mess. It wouldn't be if I could do this myself, Christina muttered. Connie sighed. I'm sorry I've been neglecting this. I thought your mane could go as long as your old hair did between brushings. It's okay, Christina said, though her voice still sounded a touch sullen. I know you've been busy. Connie smiled. Yes, at the job some little pony I know convinced me I shouldn't give up. Yeah, I guess I did do that, hey. Connie loosened her grip, as she had cleared most of the nastier tangles. And things have been busy lately. I try to spend as much time as I can with the family, but... Is that why you and Dad are all dressed up? We used to have family over on Sundays before ETS, said Connie. I thought it would be good to start that up again. Christina suddenly giggled. Connie smiled as she drew back so she could brush Christina's tail. What's so funny? I used to hate having to dress up for that. Glad I don't have to do that anymore. Connie grinned. Well, I was thinking of tying some pretty pink bows in your hair. Christina jerked her head towards her mother, eyes wide. You what? Maybe ones with cute little red hearts on them. Christina face hoofed. Mom, no. I'll look like a dork. Oh, but I thought they love that sort of thing in Equestria. Princess Twilight doesn't wear stuff like that. Ah, I see, said Connie. You prefer the nerd look. Darn right I do, Christina declared. That's why I want to get my levitation spell working. I want to start coming up with lots of other spells. Connie's smile faded slightly. As much as she didn't want to dash her daughter's dreams, she did want her grounded in reality. You do realize they're still restricting what spells unicorns can have. That's why I want to invent them myself, Christina explained with all the certainty of stating her own name. Twilight Sparkle invented lots of spells on her own. Yes, she did, said Connie as she changed to a softer brush before applying it to her daughter's fur. Though after many years of tutelage under a rather accomplished magic user. I'm not in a rush, Mom. Besides, maybe they'll let us learn more magic after you keep showing them how good ponies and humans can get along together. Connie wished it were that simple, but she chose not to steer her daughter away from her hopeful course. Sometimes reality had to wait. At least Christina did have the benefit of youth. Connie could only imagine the frustration of older adult unicorns. So who's coming over today? Christina asked. Your Uncle George and Aunt Anne, said Connie. Aunt Celia, what's her name now? Delicate Flowers, I believe. Her son Rick will be over as well. Oh, cool, Aunt Celia took a pony name. Not Rick, though. I imagine he might be waiting for his cutie mark before he decides. Christina looked thoughtful. Mom, you think I should take a pony name? Connie finished brushing her daughter's still blank hindquarters and set the brush aside. That's entirely up to you. You might want to wait like Rick and see what your talent is going to be. Christina turned to face her mother and said in a wary voice, or if I decide to change back, right? Yes, but like your pony name, that's up to you as well. Connie tilted her head. I haven't heard you bring it up until now. Christina sat and wrapped her tail around her haunches. Yesterday, I tried doing what you said. I tried meeting some old friends who were still human. Yes, our neighbor Windwalker said he had accompanied you. He didn't mention how it went. It went okay, said Christina. Mostly. Did something happen? Christina sighed. Ken was always a jerk before ETS, and he still is. He called me an overgrown plushie and kept going on and on about how much better humans are since they have hands and fingers. She frowned. I wish I had my levitation working so I could show him that it can be just as good. You can use your hooves pretty well also, said Connie. Yeah, but try telling him that. To hear him talk, it's like ponies are no good at all. Did he say that? Christina hesitated. Well, not in those words, but that's what he meant. He said I should change back, and some of his friends agreed with him. She smiled faintly. The only one who was on my side was Jill. She wanted me to tell her the moment my horn started working. Connie ran her fingers through her daughter's mane. Well, there you go. Even if only one person accepted you, that's progress. Just as she spoke, her husband appeared at the door. Tucked under his arm was a FedEx envelope, a cell phone in his hand. Hey, honey, my brother George called. He's going to be late. His youngest decided to have a magic surge right as they were leaving, and they're having trouble getting the harness on him. I'd just as soon not have a surging Pegasus foal bouncing around the house, said Connie. He can take his time. Christina giggled, and even Connie smiled at the comical imagery it conjured up in her own mind. She glanced at the envelope. Oh, is that the order I made for Chrissy's shampoo? Frank extracted the envelope from under his arm. That's what I had assumed it was, which is why I set it aside once I had signed for it yesterday. Signed for it? Connie said. That's rather odd for just a bottle of shampoo. Well, I only just noticed the return address, which is why I thought you might want to look at it. Connie accepted the package, her daughter looking on curiously. She turned it around to look at the return address. Washington, D.C. Frank glanced to the side as the doorbell rang downstairs. I better get that. Connie nodded slowly without looking up. Christina gasped. Maybe it's from some pony important in the government. Connie chuckled. I highly doubt that. It's from someone named Rosalind. I don't know anyone by that name. Are you going to open it? I guess I should. Connie pulled the tab which ripped open one end of the package. She tipped the envelope, and a book slid out and into her waiting hand. She read the title aloud. Washington, D.C., A Picture Essay. Christina's ears drooped. Ah! Connie smiled. Well, you never know. If I ever do have ambitions that way, I'll need to know what the city looks like so I can get around, won't I? No you won't, that's what your Secret Service is for. Connie ruffled Christina's mane. You really do have high aspirations for me, don't you? Some pony else thinks so, or they wouldn't have sent you that, said Christina, pointing at the book. To be honest, I'm mystified as to who sent this or why. Connie looked down at the book. A bookmark had been slipped into it about a third of the way through, a short lavender-colored tassel dangling from its end. She opened the front cover, revealing the first picture to be of the White House. Christina suddenly gasped. Connie tilted her head. What is it? Magic! Christina cried. I just felt magic. Where? From the book. Connie looked back down. Honey, it's just a book. I'm sure I felt it, Mom, and, look. Chrissy, keep your voice down, we have company downstairs. But the bookmark is glowing. Connie's eyes widened as she saw the same for herself. Despite the vast majority of beings in the world who could practice magic having little motivation to want to harm her, her first thought was that she could be in mortal peril. Companies like FedEx were supposed to have controls in place to prevent dangerous or illegal materials from being transported, but did that extend to magic? Open it at the bookmark, Christina urged. Connie started to put the book down. We have no idea if this is safe. Why wouldn't it be? What pony would want to hurt you when you're trying to do good things for them? And you said yourself they're not letting ponies have a lot of powerful magic. Connie admitted that her daughter had a point, but her family's safety had to come first. Just the same, I don't think. Wait. Christina said. If there is a spell on the book, then there has to be something from Equestria in it. Earth materials can't hold magic spells yet. She smiled and clopped her forehooves together. Some pony from Equestria sent you something. But that's... I mean... Connie looked down at the book again and sighed as she drew it back into her lap. All right, but you're going to stand back. Off the bed. Ah, come on. If it's safe, I'll show it to you. Now, do as I say. Oh, all right, Christina muttered as she turned and hopped down to the floor. Connie's heart thumped as she grasped the bookmark, steeled herself, then flipped the book open. At first it looked similar to the first page. A location in Washington graced the 2 pages, specifically the Equestrian Embassy. The upper right corner of the picture was missing, as if it had been a printing error. Yet instead of simply a white page, the space was filled with a stylized drawing of a pony, the legs almost stick-like, the eyes closed. What is it? Christina called out. Connie glanced at her daughter. I'm not really sure, she cut herself off when she looked back at the drawing. Had the eyes been open all this time? The drawing's head turned towards her and smiled. Hello, Mrs. Morgan. Connie nearly dropped the book in her shock. Christina bolted back onto the bed. She climbed over one of Connie's arms before her mother could protest, and her mouth dropped open. The drawing took a step and hesitated. Oh. Hello. You must be Christina. Oh me God, oh me God, oh me God. Christina cried. Chrissy, keep your voice down. Connie said. But that's Twilight Sparkle. And she knows my name. Only then did Connie see that the drawing had both wings and a horn, as well as that distinctive cutie mark. Christina, you will calm down at once. But... No buts. First of all, this is a drawing of Twilight Sparkle, not the real pony. Actually, Mrs. Morgan, said the drawing. The real Twilight Sparkle is indeed talking to you now through the book walking spell. That gave Connie pause, but could she believe what she was hearing? Yet who else would have the ability to do something like this? You're talking to us from Washington, D.C.? Christina asked in an astonished voice. Well, I did have to boost the spell a bit ahead of time, said the Twilight Proxy. And I had to pre-enchant the pages I inserted into this book since I can't cast such a spell from scratch at that distance. This is amazing! Christina cried. What other spells like this can you do? The drawing smiled. As much as I would love to answer your questions, Christina, I really do need to speak with your mother in private. Christina's face fell, and her ears with it. She murmured in a miserable voice, her eyes glistening. Connie could not help but grin when she saw Twilight's drawing just as affected by that sad puppy look as Connie herself could be. Tell you what, said Twilight. If you let me talk to your mother, I'll answer 3 questions from you afterward. Only 3. Christina said. Unfortunately, I'm a very busy pony. I'm sure your mother gets busy with her duties sometimes, doesn't she? Yeah, she does. So while your mother and I talk, you think up the best 3 questions you can, Twilight said with a smile. I will. Christina said brightly. And this is very important, don't tell a single person you met me. Ah, I can't tell any pony. Or any human, said Twilight firmly. Listen to her, Chrissy, said Connie. Do you think someone like Twilight would ask that of you if it wasn't very important? Christina glanced at her mother and nodded. Yeah, you're right. I won't say a word. Chrissy, go tell your dad that I'm taking an important call, said Connie. That's all you can tell him for now. I'll talk to him later. All right. Christina looked at the book and smiled. I'll go think up those questions now. See you later. She jumped off the bed and galloped out of the room. Connie stood and closed the door. Sorry about that, Princess. My daughter is a rather big fan of yours. Twilight chuckled. It's okay. Your daughter is quite adorable. I've read some of your blog entries about what it's like to raise a pony daughter. I want to commend you for your dedication. Connie sat back down on the bed. It hasn't been easy, Princess, but I want to let Christina be her own person, whether that's pony or human. Please, you can call me Twilight. And you can call me Connie. I need your help, Connie, said Twilight. I fear an effort is underway to undermine relations between humans and ponies. Does this have to do with the Pony Council? Asked Connie. It may have started before that. While this primarily involves the Western ponies, I fear ponies who have reached an accommodation with humans will suffer in the fallout. Connie thought back to Agent Heller. So do you also think there's a terrorist threat on the horizon? Not necessarily from terrorism, but more from within your own government? Twilight considered. You said also. Who else thinks there's a terrorist threat? An FBI agent who recently contacted me. His name is Anthony Heller. Yes, I know him. Twilight said, smiling. We worked together during the ETS crisis. We didn't always agree, but I have a great deal of respect for him. He interviewed me the other day, Connie said. He didn't share too many details, other than they suspect the involvement of a person I met at a pony mart. A fellow named Ryan Halter. I'm not familiar with that name, but I'll keep it in mind, said Twilight. We need to return to the matter at Hoof. When you said my government, did you mean the federal government? Connie asked. Unfortunately, yes. I'm not sure how I can help. I'm only a mayor of a small city. What I need is insight, said Twilight. Whatever is going on, it seems to be focused in your area of the country. I need as much information as you can provide me. What exactly are you looking for? Has anything unusual happened lately? Anything related to government, law enforcement, or military activities? Any sort of activity that you didn't expect or was handled in an odd way? The day before, she had learned that the FBI had engaged in a failed operation to take the fugitive Partial into custody. A state government official had informed her of the scope of the operation, far larger than she had thought would be needed for a single Partial. That brought her thoughts to Ted. She had been wrestling with what to do considering that his involvement might already be known to the FBI, which meant Connie had knowledge of illegal activity that she had a duty to report. Twilight, Connie said in a heavy voice. I assume everything you tell me is to be held in strict confidence. Yes, please. Then can I ask the same of anything I tell you? I chose this method of contact specifically to avoid surveillance, said Twilight. Your name will never come up. Do you have something for me? The FBI recently tried to apprehend a fugitive Partial just south of the Denver Pony sector. The operation appeared far larger than past efforts. Do you know where this Partial being held now? That's just it. The operation failed. Twilight's eyes widened. Failed? How? I don't know, said Connie. It may be due to help they received from the pony sector. I may know someone who helped her. Still, I have never heard of such an operation failing, said Twilight. With as many crystal ponies as they have in their employ, it should have been easy to pull off regardless of the Partial's abilities. Another thing, said Connie. As a courtesy, the FBI generally notifies the Denver Police Department of such operations, and they disseminate it through the local municipalities so they can lend support if needed. We heard nothing this time. Twilight frowned. That sounds to me like someone was trying to keep it as secret as possible. Is that information you can use? Asked Connie. Not directly, said Twilight. I can't take any action that would give the appearance of Equestria interfering with American interests. That's in part why I'm contacting you. I'm going to have to ask you to follow up on this. But how? Connie asked. I don't have that much influence. Did Anthony give you a way to contact him? Twilight asked. Yes, but in relation to the terrorist threat. I would talk to him. I can as well, if you can bring this book with you. But if the FBI is involved in this effort to disrupt relations between ponies and humans, wouldn't he be the last person I'd want to talk to? Connie asked. Connie, the Anthony Heller I know is ethical to a fault. Twilight's voice turned more somber. The one time he had to act contrary to that, the decision had been made for him. I have to be honest, Twilight, I'm not sure of this, said Connie. I feel I'm taking a big risk here, both personally and politically. I realize that, said Twilight softly. And I'll understand if you refuse. I'm worried about my family. If there is some sort of conspiracy at work, and the FBI is part of that. While I think it's a little too early to assume that, I see your point, said Twilight. I'm mostly concerned about tomorrow, said Connie. She described the Magic Craft Fair and the counter-rally Humanity First was planning. Agent Heller seemed concerned about Humanity First's involvement, and frankly, so am I. My daughter will be at that fair. Let me see what I can do at my end, said Twilight. My partner Starlight Glimmer is on Earth right now in your area of the country. She may have some ideas. Thank you, said Connie. I have to go soon, so you may want to call little Christina in now, said Twilight with a smile. She can close the book when we're done. Just open it to this page if you want to talk to me again. Give me time to respond in case I'm in a public area or busy with some other task. Connie nodded. The incongruity of talking to someone via their animated drawing had worn off. It was almost like talking into a speakerphone that just happened to be shaped like a book. I'll do what I can. Thank you. Hopefully we can talk again soon. Connie put down the book and headed to the door to call her daughter. She had no idea how she was going to explain this to Frank. Ted had told her that he had wanted to get the partial side of the story before he decided what the right course of action was. Perhaps Connie needed to talk to her as well. Asterisk. Stronghooves stood upon the hill that looked down into the small valley where he and his fellow ponies had made their home on the outskirts of what was once Grand Junction, Colorado. He always used the past tense when referring to that place regardless, or perhaps in spite of, what human authorities said. The town name represented a past that was gone and best forgotten. He looked forward to the day when ponies would claim the rest of the land and rename the municipality to something more befitting a pony population. He would rather be looking west, towards a delightful early fall sunset. That day, the setting sun was aligned with another pony community in Utah, and their Pegasus kept the skies scoured clean of the pollution which drifted in from the interstates and human industry. Instead, he had to look east towards the arriving human. He watched as Tom, Teresa, and Molly were greeted by other members of the community while accommodations were arranged for them. He had made sure to have his most trusted and strongest ponies on hoof as a precaution. He had to admit that Tom did not look the type to be stirring up trouble, but after having had ponies die at the hands of humans to whom they had extended the hoof of friendship, it paid to not take any chances. Water Wings was among those present. Strong was still getting used to the name. The Pegasus had taken it only fairly recently, insisting on clinging to his old human name of Jim for so long. Strong couldn't remember what the pony's human last name used to be. Water was much more personable with humans than Strong ever could be, thus he was more suited to finding out what this mixed species family was doing in this part of the Pony Nation. Strong referred to the ponies of America collectively as a nation even if no pony else would. He still felt that the Pony Council was not going far enough. Just showing the humans how ponies intended to live was not good enough. Until humans came to their senses and wanted to transform, the existing ponies had to have their own protected space. He frowned as he recalled his encounter with that self-appointed preacher pony Sunset Blessing. She called herself a chimerist, yet she acted in far too accommodating a fashion towards humans for his liking. She had approached him as a potential candidate to help unite the chimerists. As if Blessing was the only living pony soul who could, literally, bless his rule. What gall! He had gone on to unite them anyway without her endorsement. As the family was led to their temporary living arrangements, Water Wings flew up to the top of the hill, his sea-green fur taking on a more dusky color in the sunset light. "Did you find out why they had come here?" Strong asked. Water sighed as he landed beside his friend and tossed back his light blue mane. "I'll tell you, but you have to promise not to get upset. Since I suspect you would not have let them in had the human intended to hold a Humanity First meeting, I doubt their reasons would pose a threat. They're here to visit the Rehumanization Center in town," said Water. Strong Hooves frowned. "I imagine it's the human's idea. He's little Molly's father." Strong snorted in disgust. "That explains why Mary was so evasive when I asked her why she was transporting them here. Likely she was afraid of the same thing I was, that you'd turn them out soon as you heard," said Water. "Or just Tom for that matter." Strong shook his head. "You know my feelings on that. I refuse to break up a family." "Yeah, I know. I'm grateful you didn't." Strong had tried his best to moderate the views of more extremist chimerists. One of those views held that the human members of otherwise all pony families had to see the need for themselves to transform in order to be accepted. He found that unnecessarily harsh and utterly impractical, better to have the humans see how ponies live and thus encourage him to emulate them. "Does Molly want to change back?" "I didn't ask directly, but she seems quite content with being a pony." Water smiled. "She was rather impressed with my stature and wingspan. She was asking all sorts of Pegasus-related questions." He flicked a wing towards his hindquarters and the image of water misting over tilled soil. "She even asked me about my cutie mark." Strong glanced at the family before they entered one of the pony domiciles. He felt a small measure of satisfaction when he saw the human duck his head to step inside. He turned back to Water. "When are they supposed to visit the Rehumanization Center?" "Tomorrow morning," said Water. "At least for the first visit." "First visit? It's a new thing they started," Water explained. "I imagine it's an attempt to get more ponies to rehumanize. If the counselors can't get the pony to agree enough for the spell to work on the first day, they can come back the next day. So now they've extended the browbeating. We should have gone with our original plans to sabotage that abomination." "I was glad you reconsidered," said Water. "We could have gotten into a firefight if we didn't pull off disarming the guards just right. To be honest, I'm not sure I like your alternate plans, either." Strong tilted his head. "My plans? What happened to our plans? We're all committed to this endeavor to assert our authority in this area. You're talking about taking land humans have claimed. Claimed without giving our grievances any attention whatsoever. Does it matter?" said Water. "Humans are big about land ownership to the point of protecting it by force if necessary. My intelligence says that the target neighborhood is not yet re-inhabited by humans," said Strong. "The only humans who have been seen in the area are appraisers and real estate agents." "Yes, but that neighborhood is a stone's throw from the Rehumanization Center. Maybe you should consider a different target." "The proximity of the neighborhood to the center is the whole reason we chose it," said Strong. "To pick another would dilute the message we are trying to send. Your objections may be moot, since I've already agreed to delay that operation until we see what comes of the Pony Council. Strong narrowed his eyes. Though in light of that watered-down version I witnessed during the press conference, I don't expect we will need to delay long. And what about the Perkins family? Asked Water. They will either be gone or at the rehumanization center, said Strong. About the only time such a place actually served a useful purpose. If they are still here, we can time our arrival after the Perkins family leaves. I guess I should know better than to argue with you once your mind is made up, Water muttered. To be honest, I'm more worried about Mary. She's going to go ballistic if we go ahead with this operation. I wouldn't worry about her, said Strong. Water frowned. Why? Because she's only a human. Strong sighed. Water. I'd like to point out that she's been a huge advocate for the ponies here despite the attitudes some have towards her kind. She deserves a little more respect than you give most humans. Will you please calm down? Strong said in irritation. We will hurt no being, either pony or human. Our population is growing, and we need room to expand, not just from immigration but the foals that will be born in a few months. Strong noticed halfway through his last statement that Water had become distracted by something in the sky. He followed the Pegasus gaze and spotted a purple-furred Pegasus mare with a tricolor red and orange mane conferring with a member of the town's aerial patrol. A small set of saddlebags were draped over her barrel. Strong mused. I recognize that pony. You do? Water asked. I don't think I've seen her before. The patrol Pegasus nodded to the mare and pointed a hoof towards the hill where Strong and Water stood. The mare smiled her appreciation and winged her way towards them. I believe she's a close friend of Sunrise Storm's, said Strong. I saw her in Pony Hope. The mare landed nearby and looked at Strong. Now that she was on the ground, Strong could tell she was more a teenage filly than an adult mare. Excuse me, you're Strong Hooves, right? She said, her voice slightly breathy from exertion. Strong stepped forward. Indeed. You're Rainy Skies, I believe. Rainy smiled. Yes, that's me. Well met, Rainy, said Strong. Whatever is ours is yours. You're free to spend the night to rest if you wish. Thank you. What brings you to these parts, if I may ask? Rainy dropped to her belly and shimmied out from under the saddlebags. As they settled on the ground, it was apparent they were largely empty. I came here to bring you something from Equestria. Strong exchanged a curious look with Water. Equestria. Were they not able to deliver it in person? Water asked in a wary voice. Well, once you see what it is, I think you'll understand why they wanted to be a little less obvious about it, said Rainy. Strong stepped closer as Rainy reached into one of the saddlebags and extracted a shiny green object in her forehooves. She smiled as she presented it to Strong. Strong's pupils shrank, and his mouth dropped open slightly as he laid eyes on it. Is that a magical artifact of some sort? Trixie called it a far-hearing stone, explained Rainy. Water gasped. What? She said the Canterlet nobles in Equestria want to, wait, what? Water had stepped up to her and draped a wing over the object. We can't risk humans seeing that we have this. He hissed in a low voice. Strong frowned and batted the wing away. Do you see any around right now? Not right now, but if they had any inkling whatsoever that Rainy was carrying this. I wasn't followed, Rainy said. I made sure of it. And I'll remind you that there is the human who just arrived, said Water. And Mary. She may be on our side a lot of times, but I think she'd draw the line at this. Strong considered. Rainy, you started to say something. Yes, that the Canterlet nobles want to talk to you, said Rainy. That's why they sent this to you. And it will work this far from the portal. Trixie didn't say anything about that. I don't think she would have agreed to pass it along if it wasn't going to work. Strong stared at the gemstone. Just the object itself could prove extremely valuable for its intrinsic magic, and had it been any pony else who wanted to speak to him, he might have simply turned it over to their unicorns. He had always advocated pleading their case to those sympathetic to their cause in the equestrian government, never had he dreamed that they would contact him first. Strong placed a hoof over the gem. Water is right, we shouldn't take chances. Please put this back in your saddlebags, and come with us. We'll find some place more private to use this stone. Asterisk. Tom glanced behind him, where the wary gazes of the other ponies still followed him as he headed into the domicile. In his distraction, he nearly hit his head on the top of the door, earning a brief rebuke from the blue-gray unicorn leading the way. Watch your head, human. Tom laid his hand on the door frame and ducked his head as he entered. The unicorn, Tom had forgotten her name already, tossed back her pale yellow mane and said in a disinterested voice, "We've tried to arrange the master bedroom to accommodate a human. We had to move the existing furniture out and put a human-sized mattress on the floor. I'm sure it will be fine, Morning Glow," Teresa said. "What about my room?" Molly called out. Morning turned her head and smiled for the first time since entering the house. "Yours we were able to leave just so. This used to belong to my cousin and her foal." Molly looked around. "This is such a nice place. Why did they leave?" "They moved to Palisade. Wanted to help with the peach crops." Morning glanced at Tom. "Against my better judgment, but it is what it is." "I'm sure they thought it was for a good cause," said Teresa. "We've certainly been enjoying the late-season peaches." Morning shrugged and turned to face them. "I ask that you keep this place clean. After you're gone, we'll likely have to ready this for pony immigrants." Tom had seen cheap hotel rooms that had more space. Yet it was neatly arranged, and a faint flowery scent hung in the air. He traced the source to what looked like an incense burner, a thin wisp of smoke trailing from it. He advanced a step towards it until he felt a sharp tug on the corner of his shirt. "Don't touch that," Morning admonished. Her horn was glowing, and so was part of Tom's shirt. Tom frowned and resisted the impulse to yank his shirt from the unicorn's magical grip. "I wasn't intending to. It's an import from Equestria," said Morning as her magic relented. "It keeps the air fresh." "I kinda like it," said Molly. "It's like the smell of the wild flowers this past summer." Morning smiled at Molly. "That's the general idea, though I'm sure you'll get a chance to smell more of them on your own once you can fly all over the Rocky Mountains." Molly giggled and fluttered her wings. Tom managed to hold his tongue. He supposed he should have expected that the ponies of that town would not exactly be very encouraging towards rehumanization. He also thought the true purpose of the incense was to combat any odors a smelly human might leave behind. As if reading his thoughts, Morning looked up at him. "I should also mention, we'd appreciate it if you didn't smoke in here, or anywhere in town for that matter." "I don't smoke," Tom deadpanned. Morning gave only another shrug. "You're all welcome to the communal meal gatherings every morning, noon, and evening." "I guess it's too much to expect any human-oriented food," Tom murmured. "Yes, it is," said Morning. "Even though Mary lives here. She's accommodated to our life here, so there's no reason you can't either." Teresa stepped between them. "I'm sure it will be fine, thank you." Morning nodded, but turned her gaze back upon Tom. "If you feel you must, you can go to Palisade. Some establishments there serve meat. Mary would have to take you, however." "That won't be necessary," Tom said in a more resigned voice. There had been no reason for him to bring it up other than for the sake of being contrary. He got along without meat at home. "Is there anything else?" Morning asked. "I think we're fine," said Teresa. "Thank you for your help. We'll be sure to leave the place as we found it." Morning nodded, gave Tom one last skeptical glance, then headed out. "So much for ponies being universally friendly," Tom murmured. "Hey!" Molly said in confusion. "She seemed nice enough to me." She wasn't quite as friendly towards your father, Teresa said. Yeah, I guess you're right. Molly looked up at Tom. Why wasn't she nice to you? You didn't do anything to upset her. Tom could have said that being human was enough, but he chose not to stir the pot. Don't worry too much about it. But we're always taught in school that ponies are supposed to be nice to all beings. Perhaps Morning Glow needs a little remedial education, Tom said in as good-natured a voice as he could muster. They've had some trouble with humans over the summer, dear, Teresa said in a delicate voice. So they're naturally a little more wary of them. But Dad would never hurt any pony, said Molly. Tom smiled. As long as you know that, that's good enough for me. Molly smiled as well. Oh. I just thought of something. Can we visit the monument while we're here? I'm not sure it's open right now, honey, said Teresa. And we don't exactly have a means to go over it except on hoof. Or foot. And that's a long way to go just to get to it. Molly looked crestfallen. The Colorado National Monument, a large area of rough, rocky territory at the western edge of Grand Junction. A winding paved road had been built through it, affording tourists a wonderful view of the beautiful rock formations which would have otherwise been inaccessible. Molly used to love the trips they took to the monument. That might be something to consider, Molly, said Tom. Humans can drive cars and can get into places like that more easily. They built the roads that allowed us to visit it in the first place. Molly considered, then glanced at her sides and unfolded her wings. But I could fly through it someday, couldn't I? If it was allowed. Why wouldn't they? The people who run the park want to make sure everyone remains safe, said Tom. That's harder to do if people can go off the main road and trails. But lots of Pegasi are pretty strong, said Molly. Or large like water wings. Oh, maybe he'd be willing to carry me on his back. To Tom's surprise, it was Teresa who nixed the idea. No, that wouldn't be safe without a harness of some sort, and then that would interfere with his flying. There will be plenty of chances in the future to visit the monument. She glanced at Tom and added in a lower voice, and it's not what we're here to do. Molly folded her wings and frowned slightly. Oh, that. When are we going? Tomorrow morning, said Tom. Mary said she would be free to. He cut himself off when his cell phone buzzed. He pulled it out and glanced at the number. Oh, I have to take this. Teresa tilted her head. Who would be calling you now? The office, Tom said absently before answering the call. Hey, this is Tom, give me a minute. He placed the phone against his chest. I'll take this outside. Outside? Yeah, I need to get more signal. Be back in a bit. He headed out of the house before his wife could say another word. Sorry about the delay, Rick. Hey, no worries, said Rick. Sorry for the call late on a Sunday, but you seemed pretty keen on snagging this place. Tom glanced behind him and headed further from the house. He still didn't know exactly how sensitive his wife's ears were. Of course, it did nothing for the other ponies glancing curiously at him as they passed. Yes, I'm still interested. Is it going to be up for sale soon? You're in luck, Tom, the legal paperwork is being finalized now. Clerks must be burning the midnight oil this weekend to get these through. Makes a nice political statement, I suppose. I'm not interested in politics, just a place to live for my family. And you can have it, but you have to act fast, said Rick. I should have the papers in hand tomorrow and can catch a flight to Grand Junction in the evening. I can meet with you early Tuesday morning. Tom frowned. The morning? Can we make it in the afternoon instead? Afraid not, Rick said. I've got dozens of other people lined up behind you wanting to snag houses in that area. Some have put in higher bids, but I'm giving you first choice as a favor to your company. Tom ran a hand through his hair. He was under no illusion that Molly would agree to rehumanize during the first session, and he wanted to do it early in the day. Parents of children up for rehumanization were encouraged to talk to them between sessions, and they would force a delay of a full day if the session concluded late. He didn't want to live among Shimmerists for longer than absolutely necessary. "I've kinda already got plans most mornings this week. I'd suggest changing them," Rick said. "I'm not normally this pushy on a sale, but affordable housing is at a premium right now. Only way we can make any sort of profit on them at these prices is because the government is subsidizing it." Tom understood why. By buying up the land from its former owners, or taking land that former humans had defaulted on, and practically giving it away to as many humans as possible, the government would be making a clear statement to the Shimmerists that Grand Junction was territory that belonged only to those who could properly pay for it. "All right," said Tom. "I'll be there." Strong led his companions back to his residence. Rainey accompanied them, as Strong saw no reason to exclude her. If she could be trusted with delivering the artifact, she could be trusted with whatever she heard. They entered the domicile's common room. He placed the gemstone in the center of the table, and they sat around it. Strong glanced at the others before pressing his hoof to the stone and announcing in a clear voice, "This is Strong Hooves." He withdrew his hoof to find the gemstone glowing, but when nothing further appeared to happen, Strong prompted the artifact again. "This is Strong Hooves to whomever sent me this stone. Are you there?" After another pause, a male voice crackled from the gem in the sing-song of Equish, then after a clearing of a throat, settled down into accented English. "Apologies for both the delay and forgetting to activate the translation spell," said a distinguished male voice, every other word slightly distorted. "Repeat your name." "Strong Hooves," said Strong. "And you're a bit garbled." "Yes, an unfortunate circumstance of being this far from the portal on both ends," said the stallion. "We have to make the best of it for now. My name is Prince Blueblood." Strong's eyebrows rose, and Water and Rainey exchanged surprised looks. "I've heard your name," said Strong. "I must admit, I never expected to speak to you." "Then consider this fortuitous," said Blueblood, his tone one of regal aloofness. "Certainly you will after hearing what I have to offer you. Other than more magical freedom, the only thing I want is self-determination," Strong declared. "I want us to be recognized as the separate and distinct beings that we are. I refuse to let us be forced into the same cultural and economic mold as humanity." Strong was pleased to see Rainey nodding her head. She had not struck him as a Shimmerist, but there were many who held to the same beliefs despite not adopting the title. He had hoped during his visit to Pony Hope that Sunrise Storm would be of the same mindset, but her beliefs had been too addled by the Lunites and Harmonists. "I also want humanity to allow their brethren the freedom to choose to become ponies," said Strong in an almost reverent voice. "The way Sunset Shimmer intended us to live. The way I believe God intended us to live, for it was He who sent her to help humanity turn from its evil ways. I have little control or influence over what humanity does regarding its own kind," said Blueblood, his voice tinged with disdain. "The way they have ruined their world and continue to do so staggers the imagination. Little wonder Sunset engineered this virus to produce a large number of Earth ponies. Your world needs them. I'm rather proud to be one myself, Your Highness," said Strong. "But, please, let's return to the matter at Hoof. We're obviously on the same page concerning humans. Clearly, you agree that they have no right to meddle in our affairs, nor attempt to change us back." "Indeed," said Blueblood. "I have broached the matter multiple times that the ponies of your world would be better off under the enlightened rule of Princess Celestia." Rainey drew back a half step as if in shock. Water raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "She would give you the freedom you desire," Blueblood continued. "In Equestria, she rules without interfering in any pony's life. We all thrive under her leadership." Strong considered the reactions of the others. Rainey had overcome her initial shock and listened with interest. Water looked skeptical. Strong burned with the desire to accept. That the vision resembled the equestrian ruler could not be coincidence. Celestia was immortal, perhaps even divine. She moved the heavens in her world. She could very well be an angel of God sent to prepare the world for the second coming. What exactly are you offering us, Your Highness? Strong asked. We wish to bring the ponies of Earth into protectorate status under the equestrian crown, Blue Blood explained. This would afford you all the rights and protections that the diarchy guarantees all ponies under their reign. In turn, the element bearers would be obligated to protect the ponies of your world as they do ours. You will be free from human aggression and barbarianism. Strong had never felt as much hope for the Shimmerist cause. Sunset Blessing could only have dreamed of obtaining such support. At the same time, he had to understand fully what they would be getting themselves into. Define we. Myself and the Canterlet nobility, Blue Blood said. And not Princess Celestia herself. She is admittedly reluctant to follow this course. And with good reason, Water declared. Who was that? Blue Blood demanded. Is there another pony in the room with you? That was Water Wings, said Strong. He is one of my most trusted friends, even if he disagrees with me sometimes. Also present is Rainy Skies, another prominent Pegasus. Rainy smiled at the implied praise. I had hoped this to be a more private audience, but I will take you at your word that they can be trusted, said Blue Blood. Then perhaps I can also be trusted to speak, Water said. What you're suggesting is not going to go over well with the humans. I know, they can't be allowed to determine our future, but they're still in the majority on this world. And how many times have minorities among humans been granted additional protections? Strong countered. This is no different. We will have the backing of a world with far greater magic than we can command here. And yet not even their own ruler is on board with this. Strong paused and nodded. I must admit, Your Highness, it does concern me as well. She can be persuaded to accept, said Blue Blood. If you clamor for it, she cannot ignore the plea of millions of ponies whose existence came about by mistakes on her part concerning her former student Sunset Shimmer. That's putting a lot of the burden on us, Water muttered. You have my word that the moment that request is made, we will act, said Blue Blood. With no guarantee that Celestia will agree. For her to ignore your plea would put her in a bad light among her own ponies, Blue Blood said. Meanwhile, we'll be facing the collective anger of humanity, Water said. Not to mention this will give groups like Humanity First more ammunition to shoot down what little freedoms we've already been granted. This has a huge potential to become a disaster. Water has a point, said Strong. Even if there is a small lag between our declaration of independence from human authority and equestrian support, we cannot afford to be left defenseless. What is it you propose? Blue Blood asked. We need more magic. Our unicorns need more spells. Our Pegasi need more training. We Earth ponies need to learn how to open up a greater connection to the Earth. I will grant your requests, said Blue Blood. We have already made inroads in that area. I had suspected as much, said Strong. That this far-hearing stone was delivered to me with relative ease only bears this out. But we need more than that, unless you intend for me to give this artifact to our unicorns so they can figure out how it works. As eager as you are to tear the gemstone apart for all its magical secrets, I insist you refrain. I wish to remain in communication with you. Strong stepped closer to the artifact. I also have another request. There is one particular spell that I want. The transformation spell. Rainy gasped. Water's pupils shrank slightly. You want what? We advocate for the complete transformation of humanity, Strong declared. We already have humans who have heeded that call, not to mention the partially transformed who refuse to rehumanize. We cannot spread the message of the blessings of transformation if we cannot provide it. Water stared, aghast. Do you seriously believe that he can just give you what has to be the most illegal? Water, you believe the same as I do, that humanity is better off as ponies, said Strong. Well, yes, but I'm realistic about it. If it's ever going to happen, we'll have to come up with the spell ourselves. Considering how long it took Equestria to come up with the same spell, I doubt that would happen anytime soon. Just the same. I want to make something very clear, Blue Blood said, his voice briefly amplified. I do not in any way condone what Sunset Shimmer did despite some of the benefits it may have brought. I cannot be party to any further transformation of humanity. I am not asking you to, Your Highness, said Strong. I do not advocate any further forced transformations. I am merely asking you to provide the means for us to assist the willing. Even in Equestria, the spell is frowned upon. It is in the most restricted section of the Canterlot archives. Even I do not have unfettered access to it. Strong smiled. I'm sure you can find a way if helping us is that important to you. You ask for the impossible. I've found that with magic and determination, nothing is impossible, Your Highness. Especially for a pony of your means. Blue Blood was silent for a long moment. I will see what I can do. Please contact me when you've made some progress along those lines, said Strong. In the meantime, it has been a great pleasure speaking with you. I look forward to hearing from you again. There was an indignant snort, and the glow in the gemstone faded. Water stepped up to Strong. I don't believe it. You actually dismissed him. In matters like this, it is important to retain the initiative, said Strong. Water frowned. At the risk of alienating the one pony who could help us. Nonsense. Realize the pony's title, Prince. He's royalty. He wants to make a name for himself. It's in his best interest to give us whatever we want if it means he gets what he wants. Strong chuckled. Perhaps he's eyeing the equestrian throne for himself. He certainly would be much more amenable to our cause than Princess Celestia appears to be at the moment. Strong did not truly believe that was possible, not when Celestia may be of divine origins, but it opened the door to the next part of the conversation he wanted to have when Rainey said, I don't think it quite works that way over there. Strong approached Rainey. You live in Pony Hope, correct? Rainey nodded. It's where the shelters in Lazy Pines settled us. All my friends are there, so I stayed on. I understand it harbors a heavy harmonist influence. It seems to work for the town. What did they tell you of alicorns? That we're destined to be ruled by one, said Rainey in a softer voice. And? Rainey hesitated. And that only an alicorn princess is the rightful ruler over ponies. Water blinked. I didn't know they believed that. There's a lot the harmonists don't promulgate outside their own circles, said Strong. They're trying to fly lower under the radar than we are. I know what you're going to say, said Rainey. That the harmonists should be jumping all over this idea if it means we get Princess Celestia to become our ruler. But that's not what they want, is it? Rainey remained silent, her ears drooping slightly. Strong stepped closer. Please, tell me. What is it harmonists really believe about the nature of their future princess? Rainey tucked her tail between her hind legs. I'm not sure I should mention it. We trusted you to hear my conversation with Blue Blood, something you could easily tell the right ponies who would see that it comes to naught. Or humans, for that matter. Rainey frowned and glared at Strong. I would never betray any pony to any human. I was merely making a point, Strong said. Now, what is it that the harmonists really believe? Rainey glanced between Strong and Water, the latter of whom gave her an intensely curious look. They believe that an alicorn will arise from among our own kind. She hesitated. And that she will hold dominion over the entire earth, not just ponies. Are you serious? Water asked in a hushed voice. Why so surprised? Strong said. Sunset Shimmer herself believed that Princess Celestia should rule over more than just Equestria in her own world. I would say the harmonists' ideas are more closely aligned with Sunset's than they let on. But it's not the same, said Rainey. Harmonists don't necessarily want to see humans transformed into ponies. They believe all beings can live in harmony together, but they need a single vision. Having us under the rule of Princess Celestia is not really keeping with that. The question is, what do you believe? Strong asked. Rainie's ears drew back. She glanced at the gemstone on the table. I'm not sure anymore. Do you want to see ponies protected? Of course I do. I feel this is the only way we can do it, Strong declared. We don't have any more options. But the Pony Council, Rainie began. Will come to nothing. It's been how many days now, and they have yet to meet with an official from the American government of any importance. Rainie had no response, her eyes uncertain, her tail twitching. Rainie, is Bright Future still in Pony Hope? Yes, she is, said Rainie. I would like a favor of you, said Strong. Please inform her that I would like to speak with her. Water's ears rose. Rainie nodded. I can do that. I'd like to stay overnight to rest first, if that's okay. Of course. Head over to the town square. There are always ponies there offering food and drink for travelers, and some pony will be willing to take you in. Rainie smiled. Thank you. And I promise to keep this whole thing secret. Yes, please, at least for now. Thank you. Rainie nodded again and headed out. Water turned to face Strong. Okay, I'll bite. Why do you want to talk to the leader of the Harmonists? When I was attending the council meeting in Pony Hope, Miss Future gave a little speech, said Strong. She said some things that suggested she was privy to knowledge concerning equestria that most ponies are not. I want to know what that is. Water tilted his head. You're going to work with the Harmonists. Why not? We share similar interests. Strong smiled. And I have something to offer them, a gateway into as much knowledge as they want concerning alicorns. Author's note. My apologies, but there will be another delay in the next update. I have several days coming up this week where I will need to put in late hours at the office, plus I'll need time next weekend to help my wife put up the Halloween display outside our house. Next update will be in 2 weeks on November 4th. There will likely be similar delays coming up closer to Thanksgiving, and a possible longer one over the Christmas holiday as I will be spending it out of town. End author's note. End of chapter 12. Long distance calls.